Here we have Patrick Reed, Captain America himself. This video was captured from the Irish Open. You can see he was actually paired with up-and-coming Irish golf star Max Kennedy, which is on the tee right beside him. Now, I've been fortunate to watch Patrick Reed ply his trade live in person twice before. Once when I was coaching at the Open Championship in Royal Portrush, and also at the K Club here where this video was taken. This video is a rear camera view, so it's going to show you some pieces in the swing, particularly for the spine angle and how the pelvis works, that you can't see quite as easily from the face-on or the down-the-line camera view. So Patrick Reed, of course, a serious operator on the golf course, plays a draw. Most golfers watching this, I'd imagine, would love to hit a draw shape and see that golf ball curve from right to left through the air. A lot of players tend to suffer with a weak slice. So of all the players on tour who draw the golf ball, Patrick Reed, in my opinion, has one of the more transferable swings that you can try and copy. Not to try and copy all of what he does necessarily, but there's quite a few draw pieces in here that are going to be easily replicated once you know what you're doing, of course, certainly which Patrick Reed does. Now, as I have him stand into the golf ball here, let's play this on in full speed here. So one thing that you will notice here within his entire golf swing that makes him so consistent is there's not a lot of excessive moving parts here. So it's quite a connected, compact, well sequenced action. There's not a lot of idiosyncratic moves within his technique. Patrick Reed describes his own action as quite a simple move. Now, if I was to highlight some of the important pieces here, firstly starting off with what builds in some of his draw is at his starting position, you can see how the shaft is angled forward, so he's applying some shaft lean. Now that builds in some compression, but as he angles the shaft towards his lead shoulder, that also configures his club face to point to the right of his target. So if I sketched in on the ground roughly what his target line would have been for this shot here, we can see that as that shaft goes forward, that gets his club face pointing more so to the right of his target line. So if it's going to be a functional draw that he hits here, so he doesn't start it too straight or even pull it left, he needs to have that club face at the moment of truth, at impact anyway, pointing more right of his target to hit his desired starting direction, to let it then come in, so he can build in some of that at the starting position. You could alternatively dynamically create that during the swing, but again, this is a simpler way of building this in here, making less work for ourselves to do in the golf swing. Patrick Reed, when I've watched him in person, he has got a warm-up routine that he goes through where he will incorporate some towels under his arms. Quite a common one that you'll see from players working on connection. And we certainly see the result of that when we watch him here, even without the constraints or aid of the towel. We never see his arms get too lifted off the body or work too deep around the body either. In his warm-up, he'll typically start with half swings with the towel, and then he'll progress as he gets into three-quarter and full-length swings to just using a glove that he throws underneath his right arm. So it's just underneath the bicep area, just below the right armpit when he's doing that drill. If he keeps the towel under his arms for the full swings, he feels like he has to tilt a little bit to left to complete the swing. So tilting left is quite an important piece in his golf swing and in a lot of good players' golf swing, but like anything in the golf swing, we can overdo a good thing. Now, one thing that a lot of amateur golfers could benefit from watching this video here, if they suffer with consistency in their strikes, they typically then don't have a stable head movement in the backswing, which Patrick Reed certainly does here. You can watch him here as he climbs his way to the top of the backswing here. Things stay very, very stable with that head. There's not a lot of bobbing up and down. And if I also take him back here a little bit, one of the pieces that's important to focus on here that helps him maintain that stable head is how his tailbone moves during the golf swing. So if I highlight the starting position of his tailbone here, and let's also sketch in a line, just a reference line, up against his right leg here. As he works his way to the top of the backswing, we can see, and as he starts to transition his way into the downswing here, we can see just at the top, his tailbone has gone from that green starting line, the small one, to here. So you can see that belt loop that I've just covered with the blue line. So as he climbs his way to the top, that tailbone working towards the target is quite an important piece of the puzzle to help him with the consistency in his strikes and to keep his head within that circle. Now, for amateurs who struggle with contact, they typically tend to have a lot of sway, or can have a lot of sway in the backswing, which instead of creating some space here in this blue circle here, which highlights where his right hip has moved throughout the backswing to facilitate that tailbone going forward, most amateur golfers would sway, who struggle with strikes and chunking the ground before the ball, and they would break through that barrier that we drew at the start up beside his right leg, and that would take their head, as I say, certainly out of that circle. And now they've got a very difficult piece to time in trying to sway back onto the golf ball. Now, I said amateur golfers would have to time that sway onto the golf ball. In the best players in the world, we do see them get to their lead side quite early in the downswing. So they have a little bit of what we could say, I wouldn't call it a sway, it's not that extreme, but there's a lateral slide here to kickstart the downswing before the rotation comes from the pelvis. Increases the gap between that right hip and the green reference line. And on Patrick's way down here, if I get rid of some of these lines here, you can see again a lot of connection. What helps is consistency of his strike here as well. You can still see a bit of bends in that right arm. Certainly he has a lot of angle in that right wrist. That right wrist is bent back. A lot of amateur golfers who also struggle with their strike, it comes from they run out of right arm to hit with, and they straighten that right arm out completely by this point here. And then that also, instead of seeing the shaft sit at this angle here, their arm would be thrown straight as they try and slap it with their arms and just use the speed that they can generate from their hands and their arms. And then instead of being on this angle here, that club is way progressed down here by this point. They've thrown away their angles, and that right wrist would have very, very little bent back look to it. Now, as we see Patrick Reed progress from here, working his way through the strike, we see his right leg get the appearance that it's a bit longer now. And as he's coming through impact as well here and into the follow through, we can see his right foot has a rolling and a banking action to it right here. This is very important for controlling the path that the club works on as well, to keep his draw on the shots. A lot of amateur golfers struggle with the right foot spinning up and the heel kicks up too early. Now, by the conclusion of his follow through, he's into what you would probably term as a fairly textbook position of that right foot, where he's up onto the toe. The position you'd see plenty of people pose in when they're on the cover of a Golf Monthly magazine or something like that. But we also see here the right bicep, when we talk about connection, is still on the chest here. And in terms of controlling the club face, another good checkpoint that you can learn from this position is, at this point, if there was a down the line camera view recording him, his club face and also the logo on his gloved hand are all pointing back towards where that would be. So a lot of pieces that you can admire in Patrick Reed's golf swing. Whether he's your favorite golfer or not, this should well potentially be one of your favorite swings to watch on tour.
If you've enjoyed today's video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps with the growth of the channel and also ensures that you won't miss out on any future content, of which there's plenty coming for you here on the channel very soon. If you've liked my style of full swing analysis today on Patrick Reed and would like something similar done to yourself, but not only to highlight what's currently happening, but to build a plan for moving forward, Patrick Reed doesn't need a whole bunch of that going on. He's in a really good place after winning again, as I say, at the time of recording this past weekend. If you would like a plan tailored to help you reach that next level of performance, you can connect with myself. I work with players all across the world through an app called Skillist. If you visit my website, seanmarksgolf.com, you can see all the details required and exactly what goes into online coaching with myself. Alternatively, I will also leave a link underneath the video in the description box. If you'd like in-person coaching with myself here in Ireland, you can also find my booking diary on my website, seanmarksgolf.com.